The Colombo crime family is one of the 5 families that has dominated organized crime in New York City since the 1930s. They built a criminal empire through extortion, loan sharking, labor racketeering, and a range of other illegal activities. But the violent internal conflicts that plagued the family ultimately led to its decline. This is the story of the rise and fall of the Colombo crime family. The Colombo family emerged out of a gang led by Joe Profaci in the late 1920s. Profaci built ties with the larger criminal network led by Charles Luciano and was one of the 5 gangs that attended the famous 1929 Atlantic City Conference to end the Castellamarese War. By the 1950s, the Profaci gang controlled criminal operations in Brooklyn and Staten Island. When Profaci died of cancer in 1962, the family was taken over by Joseph Magliocco, but his reign was cut short when he conspired with the Bonanno family boss to assassinate several other New York mobsters. In 1964, the family was taken over by Joseph Colombo. Under Colombo's leadership in the mid-1960s, the Profaci gang became one of the most powerful of the 5 families. Colombo ended the infighting and forged closer ties with other families. He was also very media-friendly for a mob boss and held publicized rallies to protest FBI attention on Italian Americans. By 1970, Colombo's Italian-American Civil Rights League had become a nationwide endeavor with tens of thousands of members. Colombo restored the broken-down mafia family to an efficient and stable organizational model. They infiltrated labor unions to extort payoffs and ran typical mafia rackets like gambling, hijacking, and the numbers game. Joseph Colombo was gunned down at one of his Italian-American rights rallies in 1971 by a young black man named Jerome Johnson. It was later revealed that the hit had been orchestrated by rival mobster Joey Gallo, who wanted control of the family. Gallo had the backing of other family members who were unhappy with Colombo. This set off an internal mob war known as the Colombo Wars, or the First Family War, that lasted until 1975. On one side was the faction loyal to Joe Colombo, led by his underboss Joseph Iacovelli. On the other side was the faction backing Joey Gallo. Over the course of 4 years, dozens of gangsters on both sides were killed in what was one of the bloodiest conflicts within a mafia family. In 1975, the family finally came together under new boss Thomas DiBella, who had remained neutral during the war. DiBella was able to repair relations with the other families and rebuild the organization. The Colombos resumed their racketeering and extortion operations, regaining strength during the late 1970s. They also continued to infiltrate labor unions, especially in construction industries like concrete pouring. By the early 1980s, the family was once again considered a major power in New York's Cosa Nostra, under boss Alphonse Persico. But more turmoil was on the horizon. DiBella stepped down as boss in the early 80s after being convicted of racketeering charges. He was replaced by Carmine Persico, who had ambitions of running the entire New York mafia by installing close allies as bosses of other families. This led to tensions with the Gambino family and the Bonanno family, triggering yet another Colombo War. During this conflict from 1981-83, acting Colombo boss Thomas DiBella was killed by a car bomb likely planted by rivals. More than a dozen gangsters were killed before a peace accord was brokered. Persico was sent to prison during this period, putting Jerry Langella in charge as acting boss. By 1986, the Gambino family saw an opportunity to deal a blow to the Colombos and assert dominance over New York's organized crime operations. They conspired with Gene Gotti, brother of Gambino boss John Gotti, to whack Langella. The hit was successful, leaving the Colombos in disarray. Gotti and the Gambinos then installed Victor Orena as new Colombo boss, expecting him to be a loyal proxy. However, Orena turned out to be more independent than anticipated and rebuilt the Colombos into his own powerful crew. In 1991, Orena made a move against John Gotti to take control. This precipitated the last Colombo War. Orena faction launched assassination attempts on Gotti allies, leaving more bodies in the streets of New York. Gotti was furious. He had the backing of the Genovese and Lucchese families and eventually ordered the execution of Orena's sons and underboss. Over the years of conflict, 12 members were killed, and 18 associates turned informants for the government. More gangsters were convicted on racketeering charges. By 1993, with John Gotti finally imprisoned, the war eventually died down with the Colombos resuming their operations under a new, low-key boss, Joel Caccese. But after the devastating wars of the 1980s and 1990s, the Colombo family never regained the power and influence it had once enjoyed. The internal conflicts, deaths, and convictions had depleted its ranks. And the long years of inter-family bloodshed had allowed the Gambinos to become the dominant mafia group in New York. As Italian domination faded, they lost some rackets to Russian, Albanian, and Mexican gangs. Like all five families, the Colombos also struggled against increasing law enforcement prosecution. As of 2024, law enforcement considers Andrew Russo the official Colombo boss. Long-serving underboss Benjamin Castellazzo was sentenced to prison on extortion charges in 2013 at age 83. The family is believed to have fewer than 50 made members today, down from a peak membership of 250. As older ex-con leaders pass the reins to a new generation, an uncertain future awaits the once mighty crime family that was torn apart by its own violent betrayals. If you like this type of videos, please consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you and take care.